Hello, my name is Jesse Alvarado, and I'm going to be speaking on bread baking, bread making, and how it pertains to mental health. This is a topic that I have some firsthand experience with, and it's a topic that I feel has a lot of basis and could have a lot of helpful information to people, especially nowadays with the whole coronavirus thing going on. I know that at the beginning, at least I was, and I feel like a lot of other people were pretty depressed about not being able to go out, and felt anxious about not knowing what was going to happen. But yeah, especially me. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm a little bit of a social person myself, so not being able to spend some time with my friends and get out of the house did have me feeling a little depressed. And bread baking is something that I picked up at the start of coronavirus, like a lot of other people, and I feel that it did help me a lot through the first couple of months of the coronavirus. And our first source comes from healthline.com, and it's actually, the article itself was written by Timothy J. Legg, who is board certified as both a geriatric and psychiatric mental health nurse, and is also a licensed psychologist who graduated from Touro College in New York. And he wrote on the fact that when he was younger, he went through CBT, which is correctional behavioral therapy. And he wrote that it helped a little bit, but for the most part, what helped was him baking, him making bread, and it allowing him some time to meditate on his feelings, meditate on his actions, and honestly just take some time away from what was going on around him and focus on himself. Our next source is going to be from The Guardian, who actually cited in their article a 2016 study that was published in the Journal of Positive Psychology. And in said study, they studied the people who frequently take turns at small creative projects reported feeling much more relaxed and much happier at the end. And for those who don't really understand what I mean by small creative projects, that could be, for instance, doing some sort of origami, which is a Japanese folding on paper into like those little paper cranes. Usually that's what most people think of, but it could also be making a paper airplane that is technically origami. It could also be like making a small crochet doily or something of the sort. Or it could also be cooking, or for my purposes, it could be bread baking, which is one of the activities that they used in their study. Then our third source would be from the Metro, which is from the UK. So getting some overseas knowledge. And in their article, they cited Pauline Beaumont. And Pauline Beaumont is actually kind of interesting because she didn't start baking bread until after she had her sixth kid. And that's also when she wrote her book. But she also has a degree in psychology and philosophy, and also a postgraduate certificate in low intensity psychological therapy. And her only book is on is The Mindful Art of Baking Bread, or Bread Therapy. And in it, she states how baking bread has helped her meditate, especially when the bread is rising, or when you're waiting for certain aspects of the bread to catch up with the rest. For instance, if you've ever baked a bread, or even some small like cake or something that has active yeast in it, you'll notice that usually they'll ask you to let it prove. And me personally, when I first started, I would take that time to just think of myself and take a little break, a little me time and just think about what's going on and how I can correct myself and how I'm gonna be okay through the whole coronavirus thing. Then our next source is actually going to be from is going to be actually from the College of Veterinary Medicine and the South Chinese Agriculture University. And they are the ones who actually, they're the ones who were relating certain aspects of baking, not only through smell, but my notes are a little funny. They were the ones who did research based on some probiotics and how they could help us and help correct depression through the probiotics and certain materials, like in sourdoughs. They were the ones who wrote the the paper, The Effects of Probiotics on Depressive or Anxiety Variables in Healthy Participants Under Stress. So they're not saying those who are under heavy stress or have high anxiety or those who have deep depression. These are like more of like the blues that you get during gloomy weather, or for this case, during the start of the coronavirus, when we didn't really know what was going on. We were under a lot of stress. And in it, what they said was that out of the 10 participants, the ones who took the small projects, or not the ones who took the small projects, but the ones who actually tried to eat probiotics or have probiotics in their diet, actually had an increase in activity and a decrease in depression and anxiety. And our final source is brainjuice.me, and in it they relate how dopamine is increased when you smell something baking, or like for instance cookies or even baked bread. It triggers some nostalgia and releases dopamine in your head. And also dopamine is also the hormone that is released when you finish a project. So to round it all out, basically what I wanted to say was that baking bread as an entire process can actually help decrease stress, especially if it's sourdough bread, which has a lot of probiotics in it, from the time that it takes to allow the bread to prove, which basically means be inflated with all those little air pockets that you see in baked bread, from the time that it takes to knead it, and from the time that it takes to bake it. You're allowed to have all these short little meditation periods to think about yourself and to do a little bit of introspection and do a little bit of soul soothing or soul searching, as it would be. And at the end, you're usually rewarded with a delicious product. Who couldn't ask for something better than fresh baked bread? Thank you for your time.